Find out how they can help you by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
News time, 7 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Thursday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. Pardon me, here's what we have coming up for you in news on this Thursday. The DeWitt County Board has made a couple of hires for open positions in the county. A DNR conservation police captain is retiring, and the University of Illinois Extension is offering a health webinar series as we get the new year started here in Central Illinois. Those stories and more coming your way here in news on this Thursday. We stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. After deliberation from multiple county committees, the DeWitt County Board has hired some new faces for open positions. Joe Whitty, DeWitt County Board Chair, explains last month they received official recommendations to fill the zoning and animal control administrator positions.
Yeah, we did have a couple of positions that we'd been looking to fill, and we did have a recommendation from land use to fill our part-time zoning administrator role. We did bring forward from land use a motion to extend an offer to Elizabeth Weichel she's out of Wapella. She had a little bit of zoning experience back in the early 2000s, but not recently. But, Dee Dee has been filling that role for us now for, as long as I've been on the board, and I think about a year prior, so about 3 years in an interim manner. And it's just an awful lot for somebody, to take on that role like she did in kind of an emergency where we just didn't have anybody to fill it. She had the experience. She could step right in and take that on. But to do that for 3 years in addition to her other duties, it's an awful lot. And so we needed to get somebody in, ideally working alongside her for some time and picking up some knowledge, but taking those duties off of her plate, to be fair to her, that's just an awful lot to expect somebody to do their full-time duties plus what was really a 20-hour or so a week job on top of that. So getting that position filled, obviously there's going to have to be some testing done, pass some pre-employment conditional testing and things like that. But our hope is to get her started in January and then take that off of Dee Dee's plate. Tony was involved in the vetting of those applications. I'm not sure how many applications that he received and how many interviews he did, but that'll be a full-time animal control administrator position. He did narrow it down to one very qualified candidate, brought that to public safety, and they interviewed her, I think it was last week, and they brought forward that recommendation as well. So Grace Moore was brought forward for that position. Again, a full-time position, taking over animal control administrative duties off of Tony's plate, and the board unanimously approved that one as well.
Many employers face issues with employee retention. Whitty explains DeWitt County is no different. He hopes the work Tony Harris has put into animal control will help combat burnout in that department.
It's a challenge, I think, everywhere. We struggled to get that role, I think, sized the animal control staffed at a level that didn't cause burnout, and so Tony Harris stepping in for the last year or so, I think he's really helped stabilize everything at the animal control facility. We've got the hires done that we think is now makes that a sustainable position. The employees aren't going to get burned out. There may still need to be some tweaks depending on how many animals we have at one time, and there's continued discussions going on there. But I think the work that Tony has done the last year has hopefully made that a more tolerable position. It's not going to cause burnout rates, and hopefully we've got a candidate that I think is certainly qualified. She's got a lot of experience in animal control, working for McLean County, so I think she knows what she's getting into, and we're hopeful that we've got the right person there, and they'll be able to pick up and continue along the good work that Tony's done.
Both Elizabeth Weichel and Grace Moore's employment will be contingent on pre-employment testing, but both the land use and public safety committees believe there will be no issues on that front. After 25 years of service, a Central Illinois game warden is handing in his badge. DNR Conservation Police Captain John Williamson is retiring. Thinking back on his 20-plus years in all the corners of Illinois, he remembers a mountain lion as one of the crazy experiences of his tenure.
I had a great career, done a lot of neat things, and now it's time for me to go down the road. Man, there's so much. Since I've been here, dealing with the mountain lion in the middle of Springfield, that's one that's going to be high on the list that you think about. So we get a call from Nebraska Fish and Game, and they're like, hey, you might want to know there's a mountain lion that we put a collar on, and we've tracked it to the west side of the Mississippi River, straight across from McDonough County. Okay, thanks. Well, that collar only would shoot back the GPS signal every week, I think it was. And so the next week they give us a call again, like, hey, you might want to know that mountain lion's across the river. It's in Illinois. Like, it swam, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
They didn't know they could swim that well.
Yeah.
But there you go. So they kept calling us back every week, and then finally one week they're like, hey, you might want to know the mountain lion is on the west side of Springfield. So we get people there, and it's in like a little 5-acre piece of woods in the middle of a bunch of subdivisions.
Wow.
And they monitored it, where it was at, and kept waiting for it to trying to figure out if there's anything we can do. And actually, one evening, some of our wildlife biologists were watching an area, and this thing just walks out. And I would think that this would walk out. He'd be really leery, and like you see a cat stalking out, worried about everything. He walked out just like nothing was going on every day, and getting there in the morning. Yeah. Well, one morning I get there, and they are like, hey, it's moved. And we end up in the middle of an apartment complex. I get there, and I'm like, what are we doing here? They're like, I think it's right in one of the backyards. So there's an apartment complex butted up to a line of duplexes. And they're like, we think it's in behind this. Well, we're standing there waiting, seeing what we're going to do. A guy walks out on his porch, the duplex right next to it, drinking a cup of coffee, having a cigarette. And I'm like, hey, sir, can you go back in? And he's probably in his mid-50s. And he's kind of like, okay, kind of growl. Kind of like, why am I being told what to do on my own porch? Don't blame him. And they're like, hey, have him look around his backyard. So I'm like, hey, sir. So he turns back around. And I'm like, look around your yard. Do you see anything? And he all of a sudden, he looks to his left, and his eyes get about the size of sausage. He goes, oh, my gosh, it's a lion. I'm like, hey, I think we found it.
Captain Williamson has spent time with DNR across the entire state, emphasizing how much the job changes with not only time, but location.
So I started up in Winnebago County, Rockford area. Much different. My first day, I went downtown Rockford to meet my field training officer at court, and holy cow, take a kid out of Mahomet, Illinois, and throw him up there in the middle of all that. All the people. You go downtown, homeless people, different things like that. It's something we see more and more now, but then I never realized it certainly didn't happen in Mahomet, Illinois.
Right.
And different things. And so you just get thrown into an experience you wasn't used to. All nationalities. Yeah. And thrown into that. Fishing, hunting, different things. A lot of these nationalities like to fish, like to hunt. So we deal with them all the time. Our state park up there, we do all the law enforcement state parks. So everybody in the state park, we deal with everybody. Was there for like 3 years, moved down to Shabana. So anyway, was there for a year. Then I moved to Saline County down in South Illinois for 8 years. Was there till 2012 and way south. Yeah, I was 30 minutes from Kentucky. Then I come back in 2012, I come back to Central Illinois. So I've worked basically all three, north to south. And it's amazing how much this job has changed. When I was up in Northern Illinois, I was 90% police officer, 10% game warden, just for what we dealt with. Go down to Southern Illinois, I'm 10% police officer, 90% game warden. Yeah. And you get to Central Illinois, it's kind of a mix. It's kind of a 50-50 mix because we've got a big state park. We have a lot of stuff going on there. So it's really the job changed throughout the state.
Captain Williamson's retirement will be effective this week after 25 years in the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. A New Year's resolution for many is to lose weight and become healthier, and the University of Illinois Extension is offering a resource to keep you accountable. Terry Miller-Casey is the director of the University of Illinois Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties. She explains they're hosting a webinar series about taking control of your health. The first session focuses on chronic pain management.
Well, we're going to help hopefully people take charge of their health in a Take Charge of Your Health webinar series in 2025. And this first one is going to be exploring practical strategies for managing pain and fatigue. And we know that chronic pain and fatigue affects millions and millions of Americans. Many people are having to live with pain management, and the old systems of pain management used to be medication, which we know is not always the best now, and many of those are habit forming and create more problems. So this webinar series is going to go through a lot of practical strategies for managing pain and fatigue so that you can make good decisions about your nutrition, exercise, learning about treatment options. What are my options for my chronic fatigue and pain? Improving communications with your healthcare providers, and then also communicating and working with your loved ones. And so this one's a little bit different because it's not just a one and done, it's a series. And when people sign up for it, we hope that they encourage them to take each piece of it, because each part of the series is going to dive into another aspect of managing it. And it's going to be every Thursday starting in January 9th and ending February 13th. So it'll be 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th of January, and then 6th and 13th. So these are pretty comprehensive. And they're 2.5-hour sessions from 1 to 3:30. So this is really a good deep dive and the kind of focused attention that most people have difficulty finding now available in healthcare, because we know our healthcare providers are so busy with treating that sometimes taking the opportunity to really break these things down is difficult.
If you can attend this free series live, it will be archived on the Extension's website for you to view later. Miller Casey says many of their programs are archived for you to revisit.
I always tell people register for it, because that will keep you informed. Even if you can't make every session or you'll have difficulties with some, register for it, because you'll be sent the information and they'll communicate with you. And then you'll also have a chance to communicate with the person who's providing the program to see if that recording is an option for you, and then where to find it afterwards. A lot of times they'll automatically communicate that to people who've enrolled, saying, and here's where you can find a link to today's session. This is free. You can sign up on our website. Again, same thing, extension.illinois.edu/LMS, and sign up for this. I mean, they're fall prevention, eating healthy, medication, helping, problem solving these issues with your healthcare provider. This is a very comprehensive deep dive. And for those who are suffering with chronic pain and fatigue, we know it really impacts their lives. So really, really urge those folks to take advantage of this great opportunity to get some relief.
Register and get more on this webinar series and many others from the University of Illinois Extension at extension.illinois.edu/LMS. News time is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock. We've got more to come on the morning show.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
News time, 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Snow and cold are on the way for Illinois, says Paul Otto with freeze notice weather.
First on January 5th and 6th, that's the snow. We don't have the intense cold at that point, but then after that, so from the 7th until the 12th, I mean, that's going to be downright dangerous. So we got to start watching not only what we do outside, but also tend to our animals a little bit extra, because that type of cold only sets in once or twice every winter.
So is that because we're finally getting the cold Canadian and Arctic air moving down into Illinois?
Yeah, in fact, not only moving into Illinois, but it's going to reach all the way down into Florida. So you don't even have a chance to drive away or fly away from this one, because Florida is going to get freezing temperatures on or about January 10th into the 11th. So they're going to have about 48 hours of it, while we're looking at 5 days of intense cold. And the heaviest snow band is going to set up along the entire length of I-72 from East Hannibal all the way over to Champaign, and that's it's going to be a pretty wide swath. So it's not just a couple miles on either side. In fact, the snow will go as far south, the measurable snow as far south as I-64. And then south of that, it's going to be a mix of snow that turns into an icing situation in parts of southern Illinois. And this is not just going to be a couple hour situation. It's going to be doing this type of activity all the way from late Sunday afternoon through the daylight hours on Monday, and then the backside comes through Monday night into early Tuesday, which doesn't add that much more, but that's at the same time that we have the intense cold starting to rush in from Tuesday and all the way through next week.
Otto says the top end snow amounts will be around 6 inches. Commodity markets reopened today for the restart of the 2025 year after a challenging 2024. Joe Camp is with Comstock Investments.
I think overall the political change is going to be a potential catalyst for the reasons of having priced in so much negativity, and understandably considering the uncertainty that we still have about trade policy going forward, how important that of course is for grain exports and the outlook there, and then on the energy policy, renewable fuels and what's ahead. There's so much clarification that we would expect can at least potentially start to come with a new government in place. And normally there's some optimism to start the year. There is reason to believe that there can be some, again, enthusiasm and optimism about what's ahead for 2025. And given the way we're finishing the year, I would say on the demand side of things, despite all of the unknowns, both on trade and renewable fuels, the usage there, it's been robust enough to give us some bullishness, I would say, relatively speaking, going forward.
The first USDA World Ag Supply and Demand Estimates, or WASDE report of 2025 is released next Friday. Average gas prices in Illinois have fallen 5.3 cents per gallon in the last week, averaging $3.18 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of 4,378 stations in Illinois. Prices in Illinois are 1.9 cents per gallon lower than a month ago and stand 16.1 cents per gallon higher than a year ago. The national average price of diesel has decreased a half cent in the last week and stands at $4.73 per gallon, rather $3.47, per gallon. According to Gas Buddy price reports, the cheapest station in Illinois was priced at $2.68 this week, while the most expensive was $4.59, a difference of $1.91. The lowest price in the state was $2.68, while the highest was $4.59. The national price of gas has fallen 3 cents per gallon in the last week, averaging $2.98. The average is down 4.9 cents per gallon from a month ago and 11.8 cents per gallon lower than a year ago, according to Gas Buddy data compiled from more than 11 million weekly price reports covering 150,000 stations across the country. Neighboring areas and their current gas prices include Peoria at $3.16, up 1.2 cents per gallon from last week's $3.14. St. Louis checks in at $2.91, down 4.6 cents per gallon from last week's $2.95, while Champaign averages $2.97, down 3.7 cents per gallon from last week's $3 a gallon. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy, says 2024 will mark the second consecutive year of decline in the national average. In the week ahead, we'll likely see gas prices fall in some states, while the Great Lakes region may experience another price cycle. He expects, though, the national average to remain mostly stable. As the time of year for making New Year's resolutions is here, the American Red Cross is asking you to resolve to make a difference and support your community by becoming a volunteer in 2025. Visit redcross.org/volunteer today to sign up for opportunities with the Red Cross. You can help people in your community or sign up to support disaster victims in other parts of the country. Locally, more than 5,000 people volunteer with the Red Cross. In the last year, they responded to more than 1,600 disasters. Local volunteers are a part of almost 275,000 volunteers across the country whose support enables the Red Cross to provide relief and comfort for disaster victims, life-saving blood products for patients, emergency support for military families and veterans, and much more. The need is still strong, and the Red Cross urges people to help volunteer. In 2025, some of the most needed disaster-related volunteer roles include their disaster action team. Most of the 60,000 emergencies the Red Cross responds to each year are a smaller disaster like home fires, and these are no less devastating to the families affected. As a disaster action team volunteer, you can help comfort and support people in your community by meeting any immediate needs such as food, shelter, clothing, or supplies, and connecting them to long-term recovery services. Red Cross supplies all the training you need. Casework volunteers provide support to people after disasters to help them get back on their feet. This can include providing referrals to other organizations, serving as an advocate, and issuing financial assistance through a special online system. Volunteers are needed to help both virtually and on site after disasters. Disaster mental health volunteers provide mental health support to those impacted by a disaster. To be qualified, you must hold a master's degree and a current unencumbered license as a social worker, psychologist, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, psychiatrist, school psychologist, or a school counselor. Current psychiatric nurses with state license as a registered nurse and at least 2 years experience in a psychiatric setting are also qualified, as are retired mental health professionals who's licensed and maintained a license certification in good standing upon retirement. The Red Cross helps about 40% of the nation's blood and depends on volunteers to help ensure patients have access to the life-saving gift. Find out more at redcross.org. News time is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Thursday. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We come up